A while ago, I did a video where I pointed out that there's a YouTuber who's a technology analyst that took time to break down a bunch of data on what the possible point in terms of performance would be for the PlayStation 5 Pro. He basically took all his data, put it together, collated it, got some reference from Digital Foundry. Apparently, he knows some of the folk at Digital Foundry and reached out to them. To this, one of my fellow PlayStation fans has come out to say that it's funny when people use words like truth or facts or other keywords to try to imply they know something when they haven't had hands-on with a PS5 Pro. For example, this very streamer, this is whom I referenced in this video, he sits and uses data from existing hardware such as PC, I guess, to make his points minus using the PS Pro. The very first portion of this, and I say this all the time, is how PlayStation fans exist in a bubble. I think you guys aren't really aware of how this generation of hardware really did change the entirety of what we consider console, with AMD coming in with a lot of its technology to build both the PS5, the series consoles. I think many people are misunderstood that even now we can actually do very good comparisons and tests. We can do a whole lot of stuff to be able to figure out, where performance sits and how each game may be running on even similar hardware to a PlayStation 5, an Xbox Series S, and even an Xbox Series X. Remember, they did it with Black Myth Wukong because it was easy to be able to decipher what is inside of those consoles and their performance just looking at their architecture. That's how it's always been. Now, with the PS5 Pro, what I've seen is, across YouTube, a lot of hyper PlayStation fans seem to be overselling it more than what Mark Cerny himself actually did. And this is where I think there's already a misunderstanding. Like sometimes you see a YouTuber say something like, oh, the PlayStation 5 Pro offers huge upgrades to PC-like performance. And to that I have to say, my fellow PlayStation fans, you've already been at PC-like performance since the beginning of the generation. I mean, look at what is required to play a game like God of War Ragnarok on PC. You need something like a 2060, an RX 5700, an AMD Ryzen 5 3600. The PlayStation 5 easily competes with this hardware. So if you're talking about performance, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X already are sitting at usually the minimum recommended and even the recommended specs for a lot of games that are ported from the console manufacturers. If we go through PlayStation's list, and I've done this many times, you're going to see that the requirements to actually play a lot of their games at what they think is agreeable performance is actually very close to the console. Because a lot of the technology that PlayStation has, it's basically been able to hone down how it gets its games, to the PC platform, and is, very good at optimizing because it takes its time to do it. It doesn't bring out PC ports for the most part on the very same day, except it's maybe, in some cases where they have enough time to do it or they have enough resources. So seeing somebody say something like this and say, never mind, people like Digital Foundry, who have had in-person sessions with the PS5 Pro saying the exact opposite of what he's trying to imply, actually he and Digital Foundry are not at odds in their analysis. He even got data from Ratchet & Clank from Digital Foundry. And Digital Foundry has not said anything different. In fact, when Digital Foundry first put out the 4070 statement, they came back to clarify that. And I think this has made, YouTubers out here, like I saw this YouTuber, I don't know who this is, I think their name is D-Batch, and they said this, PS5 Pro offers huge PC-like upgrade. Sir, you already had huge PC-like upgrade with the PS5. The Pro is here to improve upon what the PS5 has already done. So again, if maybe this new hardware upgrade maybe makes somebody feel like, oh, we're going to now be on, the same terms as PC players, that's a whole different conversation that we can have. But again, you're playing on two different ecosystems, of which already the PC platform as an ecosystem and all of the things that it offers is already better than what even console is. But we can talk about that later. And then he said, he even goes on to say that what the Pro is doing is some kind of illusion and it's playing some kind of trick with your eyes. Well, I think he was talking about how ray tracing is more of a gimmick, because ray tracing is about pretty much rendering light, on different assets across, a digital world or whatever it is. It's like an old notion in math and physics that, you can pretty much, read more about if you want to know more. And I think that's probably what he was saying. Then he said, which may be true, but if your eyes and brain can't perceive a difference that your hard data numbers can prove, What you're saying to me is this: my 4K rig is being outperformed by a lesser spec console. I don't think that's what the conclusion is, but if you choose to conclude that, that's fine. Because to be honest, for the most part, a lot of people cannot tell the difference whenever you bring, like, say, two performance metrics side by side for people to see. I think you just basically showed the notion that a lot of people were expressing when Mark Cerny came out and said, oh, look at the difference between the PS5 Pro and the PS5. And a lot of people were like, I can't see the difference. Like, really, like, there were many people who said they could not see the difference. I was surprised too, because I can see the difference. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and BS you and say, oh, I can't see the difference. I do. I can see the difference in, both of them. I do notice it. But some people said they could not notice it. It became a meme. And I remember this YouTuber that you're actually, pretty much trying to invalidate, like, data that they pretty much worked on to put together, because you're saying if your eyes cannot see it, like, many people can also go the same way too. They can use that same argument against you, because you then use that to conclude and say, you can show us numbers and all graphs all you want, but if your eyes perceive that a PS5 Pro performs similarly to a PC that costs 2 and 3 times as much, all your arguments are invalid. You tried to actually invalidate the argument by using a methodology that could be used against you at the same time, because those people who said they could not notice the difference, they could also say, if I cannot notice the difference between the PS5 and the PS5 Pro, then Mark Cerny's, whole presentation is a wash. So you got to be careful, my fellow PlayStation fans. I think one thing that has happened is, for the longest time, we've lived in this bubble where we make some of the worst arguments and don't necessarily think about the implications of such an argument. The data and the hard facts are there. Some people truly cannot notice the difference between, according to them, 30 and 60 FPS. I've heard people say that. They're like, I cannot tell you the difference. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I don't have their eyes, right? Some people cannot notice the difference between 60 to 90 FPS. I can notice 90 FPS. It feels different. But once you pass, 90 FPS, I can tell you what the heck is going on. I don't see a difference after that. Some people say they can feel the, more FPS. But you cannot come out and make this kind of argument and expect that anybody take this seriously. Come on. Because you need to go back and watch that video very carefully. If you have something that is maybe misplaced, or maybe something you don't really understand, then you need to seek out the truth. PlayStation fans, you live in a bubble, and I'm so intrigued, and I'm curious what would happen when we burst that bubble, because I'm a PlayStation fan myself. It took a while to be able to come out of this bubble. Well, I don't think it took a while. I mean, I already was playing on PC as a youngin', so after having played on PlayStation 4 for a while, I thought, what would it look like? And I saw other people playing on PC. They were playing The Division. The game had better performance. They weren't paying for PlayStation Plus. And I said, come on, what is going on in this ecosystem over here? So if you want to buy a PS5 Pro at the end of the day, just buy a PS5 Pro because you want to buy a PS5 Pro. But if you buy a PS5 Pro thinking that you're going to be getting performance of, 2 to 3 times as much. Did you see what you just said? Man, I don't know what many people are smoking in this community, but man, I don't want it. I promise you. People would usually say, man, whatever you're smoking, I want to have. No, I don't want it because, man, it pushes you out of reality. And in a place where we're actually looking at numbers, we're looking at charts and data, you don't need that kind of thing. So, dear PlayStation fans, step out of your bubble. It will help you. Thanks for watching the video. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Peace out.